Hello, my name is Arthur, and in the last video I demonstrated how to separate the house images into a series of layers and suggested saving them with a naming convention that would leave them numbered, and this is what I went with. I gave the number first. I used a 3-digit number, 001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and that just ensures that everywhere I put them, they land in this specific order. So basically it starts from the back south wall, the front south wall, the east wall 3 parts, and then the north wall into 2 parts, and the floor and the roof. So this is the folder that I copy and put into Godot. So we'll have a look at the images in Godot and the scenes that I've created with it. So we start with the floor image, or the floor scene. And the floor scene I decided to make an area 2D. And that's optional. This is on the future idea that I may want to make a house turn semi-transparent when a character enters it. So this gives me the option to use an odd body entered, and as you can see, the floor has a script. And the image was given an offset along Y to move the sprite graphic so that it is entirely on this side of Y sorting. So anytime the character is on the floor, it will register as being on top of the floor because of the offset and where the origin of the image is. Now, the same idea was applied to the roof, except in the other direction. So the offset put the roof entirely above Y center. And then I went through all of the walls, and all of my walls still need refinement. Now, the roof was made as a simple sprite because it has no interaction at all. All of the walls I've made as static bodies, and each of the sprites also has an offset. And I offset to the center of the wall, and my collision shape is going to need refining. I would say the problem with my Blender model is I actually made the walls too thin. So I should have chubbied up the walls a bit and made them a bit fatter, and that would relieve some of the issues that I'm already running into. So I've done this for each of the walls. They all have an offset to the center of the wall so that they can Y sort. And this one's questionable, and it's entirely likely I should have put the origin at the center of the actual relevant part of the wall rather than the center of the top of the wall. So this one is probably going to need further refinement. I've put each one with a collision shape. The door, I made it so that you can't go behind the door. And this is more or less what I have so far. Right now I'm to the point of refining in my scene. Now, what I've done is I've given the floor a script so that I don't need to place the walls. I can just put the walls into the scene. They'll all be sitting on the origin. When I start the game, the floor script will move the wall into the proper location. And we'll have a look at that script and how it works in a moment. So the first thing I need to do is I need to look at how well my walls are Y sorting. So on this side, we have good accuracy up to a certain point where The player is now in front of the wall, but it's sorting badly. So that would be in the static body's collision shape, and we can see it happens on both of the corners of the wall. So like in the previous wall tutorial, I'm going to have to kick the collision shape out of whack a bit so that it Y sorts more correctly. And we can keep the player in the appropriate part of the wall. So we'll look at how to refine this one wall. And I'm going to have to go through each of the walls and do this. So this is a somewhat lengthy and complicated process we're looking at here. So we want to pick the collision shape, make it so we can edit the points, and we'll grab this one and bring it out some. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Let's put that back where it was. It would be this one we need to pull out some, and hopefully that will sort good. And this one we'll need to pull out some in this direction, and again that's going to make a little bumpy spots. Now perhaps I should look at my character, because I've changed this graphic, and it's entirely possible he's not standing well in his own offset. Yeah, so my character actually needs to have a bit more offset, like his offset has become skewed from the change in graphics, because I no longer have a 128 by 128 graphic. I've compressed that. I have more frames to my walk cycle, and it's now 96 by 128. So if I was to change the X offset, let's see, that should probably be around -6. We'll try that. Let's go -8. Oops. -8. So that's a little better centered now. We'll see how that works out in the test scene. So we have the south wall with the adjustment, and we'll see how that sorts in the test scene now. And once I have an idea for how much I need to kick out the wall, it'll be the collision shape. It'll be relatively easy to do that for all of them. So that looks like it's Y sorting well now. So that wall's working. We can call that good. So I'll go through and I'll correct the collision shapes for all of the walls to have that accounted for. Now there may be little spots where if you try to hug the wall, it'll be like this wall. If you try to hug it, you'll get hung up on that collision shape that you can't see. So maybe that might be something to integrate into the graphic, like an obstacle to explain the getting hung up, or just call it what it is, imperfect. So let's have a look at the script, because the script is pretty much the end of this, and once you know how to do the offset for one wall, you should be able to do it for the roof and any of the walls, because the same formula will apply. So when it comes to the floor itself has a position and an offset. That's the first thing to consider. Then the wall has a position and an offset. So that's our math in a nutshell. Let's have a look at the floor GD. Right now I only have it set up for one wall, and that makes it simple. When it comes to the on-ready variables, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 walls. So there'll be seven calls to get these different walls. So we'll have wall 1 through 7. How I position the wall was on ready. The floor position is calculated by position, which is the position of the area 2D, plus the sprite's offset. So sprite.getOffset. And that calculates the floor's visual position. Wall 1 position is equal to the floor position minus wall 1, and you have to get the node sprite and get the offset for the sprite. So it's the floor position minus the sprite's offset. That places the wall perfectly, and that formula, I imagine, will work for walls 1 through 7 as well as the roof. That way, rather than attempting to assemble the house in the scene, like I said, it'll all just be sitting up here on the origin or wherever, on ready. As soon as the program runs, ready will run on the floor, and it will plop all of the walls in the appropriate locations, and the house will construct itself. So that's it for this video. I'll come back with one more video just to show the house working, and if I decide to make the house go semi-transparent when the player is inside of it, or if I run into any issues with the script formula that requires adjustment for any of the walls for any purpose, for any reason. But I don't anticipate that'll happen, and this should be everything that a person needs to be able to start looking at assembling more complex graphics that will Y sort properly. So until the next video, take care.